they're masquerading in our name, doing what they're doing, their atrocities, and the Jews who are true to religion. I've heard many of our rabbis, they're constantly giving speeches, speaking to our youth, speaking and bemoaning and crying, and they're frustrated because we try to voice our opposition. Since my youth, I'm in my 60s to 120. My youth, we went to the United Nations. We used to go stand in front of the United Nations. We're totally ignored. We have demonstrations that are in the tens of thousands. This is in front of the White House when Netanyahu went to visit Obama. This is in each place we have in Washington D.C. This is in New York City. I mean, these are small pictures, it's hard for you to see, but you can go to our site, and anybody you can take out. This is in Montreal, in London, in Jerusalem, we have constantly. And every year, in front of the United Nations here, or in front of the Israeli embassy, we have a few times a year, tens of thousands of Jews go demonstrate. In the streets of Jerusalem, we have constantly tens of thousands of Jews, besides which we have the smaller demonstrations. This is in front of the Capitol building. This again was this is in front of the White House. So this we have constantly having these demonstrations, and it's never written in the newspapers. It's never written in the newspapers. We're talking about 50 years we're demonstrating. Why isn't it written? Because the Zionists, a lot of them are owned by Zionists, and this is not conspiracy theories. You have Zuckerman. You have these the ones who I met with the head. I went to the United Nations press department, and I met with, and I've been meeting many years with editors, with reporters, and they even told me, look, it's very interesting. They're really interested because that's their soul. They're interested in. But they said, we know it's going to be. They tell us, they send us letters that's been edited out. They send us emails, they send us letters, it's been edited out. Sometimes, even Montreal, I still remember, we went to the press building and we went to meet, and there was some Canadian office, there's different offices, and they had from few different places. They said, look, you should know, I don't want to waste your time, they told us. We're very interested, they want to discuss this, but we know, you should just know, we're not going to be able to print it. It's like a conglomerate. They have a few newspapers that is controlled by or owned by Zionists. The same thing you have here. It doesn't have to be owned by some Zionist entity either, not. But they're under a tremendous pressure as being accused of anti-Semitic. There's something called Media Watch. There's Camera. There's different organizations that the Zionists have that they inundate and send. People are ready. They send out letters and so forth that you're anti-Semitic. You wrote against the state of Israel and so forth. Nobody needs it. They don't need that problem to bother with it. So they just won't write about it. And to be accused as being anti-Semitic is a terrible stain on somebody. And he doesn't want to go around his whole life having to answer. And anybody who speaks up against Zionism, it becomes a target. We are targets. I have many pictures of our rabbis being attacked. As I say, our rabbis were murdered. We personally were attacked many times, beaten. Our synagogues, desecrated. This has been it's been done all over the world. We have pictures in London. My colleague here is from London, and there's a rabbi there in Manchester, Rabbi Cohen. I have pictures. They shot bullets into his house for years already. They keep on flattening the tires of his car. The police have never been able to catch anybody yet. Now, I'm thinking against the British police, but that's the power of Zionism. They're able to do it. So the point is they intimidate. What happens is when they do these things, there's an intimidation factor. That other people see this and they're afraid to speak. We have, thank God, tens of thousands who speak up, go out in demonstrations, but many more Jewish people would be outspoken against Zionism if it wouldn't be for the fact that they're simply intimidated. They're afraid for what the repercussions will be. The Zionists, if you speak up, they see people if every generation, if every gathering or something, the Zionists come unabashedly. They take pictures. They see somebody, you work for a company. They'll call the company and say, look, I can't deal with you. We have big business. We can't work with you because you have somebody who's a Jew hater amongst you. And people lose their jobs. After every demonstration, people, besides getting attacked physically, now thank God we have police here. in the state of Israel, the police is the ones who are doing the attacking. But around the world, we have police. Thank God they protect us. If it wouldn't be for that, they warn, they tell us, they even tell us we would, if they wouldn't be stopped with it. But still in all, people are intimidated. Basically, that's the story. So now to differentiate between Judaism and Zionism, which is what should be, which is truth, in fact, and that is what should be in the newspapers. There's two distinctly different things, Judaism and Zionism. But that you can't do. The Zionists are constantly on guard and on always seeing that and they make the laws, they make the different declarations in the European Union. They wanted to say that if you're anti-Zionist, you're not anti-Semitic, and they put some pressure on them in the European Union. And here in the United States, that if you attack Israel, not attack physically, if you speak up against anything in Israel, they are speaking against Judaism, and it's anti-Semitic. Being against the state of Israel, anti-Semitic. I mean, it's the wording. There's no words for me because it's not anti-Semitic. To be a Zionist is anti-Semitic. To be a Zionist is anti-Semitic because although putting aside that a Semite means also Arab and anti-Semitic is against any person from the Semitic, from Shem, from the Noah's children Shem, which includes Arab. But let's just take it as it's been accepted that anti-Semitic means anti-Jewish. Who is the one who is causing anti-Semitism today throughout the world? Around the world, you have the exacerbation of anti-Semitism, that is to say. In other words, there's anti-Semitism, anti-Jewish. There are people who are against Jews because they're Jews, that's a fact. But the exacerbation of anti-Semitism, the fact that people, because they confuse the two, and people are terribly upset with the occupation, that is clearly because of Zionism. They walk around, most of these Zionists, 90% are non-religious. You don't even know they're Jewish. I walk around Europe, I go in communities, and I don't put my beard in my pocket. Yeah, I'm Jewish, and you see I'm Jewish. And a lot of times, unfortunately, people attack us because, why? And we're not condoning to be attacked, but they're attacking us because of what the Zionists do. Every time they make an attack on Gaza, and they do, so we are suffering. Who is the anti-Semite? Those Zionists are the anti-Semite because they're using illegally. They've taken my identity. They've taken my license, my identity, to use for their convenience sake, to make a state that's blatantly against the Torah, against the teachings of our Torah. We're not allowed to have a state. We're not allowed to leave exile. They're using it because their convenience sake, that they want to have a national home. Why didn't they call it the state of Zion? Call it something. Why do you call it a Jewish state? They insist that they even made a law that it's a Jewish state now. All of it because they want to infuse and confuse the two to make it that it should be a Jewish state, that if you speak up against it, you're anti-Semitic. So you can't speak up against that. That cause, of course, just makes the Jewish people around the world suffer. This is unacceptable.